What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. I am one of your co-hosts for today, Simon Villanoz, aka Coach V.
And I'm your other co-host, Kodey Stauffer.
And this will be our last episode for this 2023 NAIA Women's Flag Football season. Got to cover the tournament, had to split that into two parts, so make sure you check those episodes out. And then obviously covered the entire season here of women's flag football. First off, thank you so much to all our supporters who have rocked with us all the way through. But, you know, we have our last set of end of the year awards. We did some end of the year stuff or some award stuff earlier on here back a couple weeks ago when we were doing best quarterback, running back, all that stuff. But this episode, we're going to talk about most valuable playmaker, offensive playmaker of the year, defensive playmaker of the year, and then freshman of the year here. Now, before we go into, each category, talk about all the candidates, and then talk about where the votes lied at the end of the day, let's go ahead and talk about the process here. So we went ahead and finalized each of these categories to 4 players, a final 4 for each one of these awards here. Now, with that being said, we kept everything in mind from regular season to postseason, like conference stuff, and then finally the national tournament, weighing all of those into the decision to get down to these 4 finalists. And so if a player missed some significant time during the national tournament or, during the regular season, that obviously hurt them. And so just keep that in mind here. And when we voted, we kept the whole body of work in our heads when we did this thing. All right, so there you go there. Now, with how the votes split up, there are 5 votes to be cast for each one of these award categories. 2 of them, myself and Kodey have. I have 1 vote. Kodey has 1 vote. We'll cast those, give our opinions there. Our friend at NAIA F-Ball, I'm pretty sure it's Corey over there, he has a vote as well. So there you go there. And then finally, our Twitter polls will have 2 votes. Now, here's how that's going to work. So the top vote getter will get 1 vote, and the second best vote getter will get another vote. And so it's not possible for, a player to get 2 votes from Twitter. And so that's how that's going to work. Each, player could get 1 of those votes. And I'm just going to put this out there in case there's a tie. So say it's, 2-1 or something like that, right? And there's 5 of us, so there's the only way for there to be a tie is if it's that. But in case it was 2-2 between 2 players, what we would then do is go to the Twitter polls, and the player who had the most votes between those 2 candidates who were tied at 2 votes would go ahead and be our automatic winner for that award. All right, so we'll go to the public for that one. But Kodey, is there anything else I missed / anything else you want to add on here before we go to our first award here?
No, I think that the important thing to clarify is that the tiebreaker goes to that higher percentage vote. So, you, the audience, your voice matters. So anytime you do see these polls, please find us on Twitter at Playmaker Corner and find those polls and go ahead and cast your votes here. And yeah, other than that, let's get to it. It's some of my favorite fan interaction that we get on the show, if I'm being completely honest. But, we also have a thing or 2 to say as well. So we'll jump right into it.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about Freshman of the Year here. So now that I'm looking at this, I realize I don't have all the stats for everyone on this thing, but we'll work with what we got here. Let's start with Amiri Logan. So Amiri Logan played for Warner, great athlete over there, played wide receiver, DB. She is one of our candidates for Freshman of the Year here. I mean, had an excellent season on offense and defense. Offensively, she was the second option, obviously, to Cynthia Holmes. On defense, I want to say she was the lead interception getter on that squad. Maybe Cynthia Holmes was close, but I want to say Amiri Logan really turns it up. Now, in the tournament here, Amiri Logan really made it known that why she's one of the best freshmen in the entire country. She also made our all freshman team list. So there you go. There as a DB, by the way. So Amiri Logan, rightfully so, is deserving right here as one of our freshman of the year candidates. Do not have her stats, unfortunately, not even from the regular season, because I forgot to count them. I'm not gonna lie. Warner was one of those programs that I had to count stats for, but obviously she was big time. I wouldn't be surprised if she was one of those players that led all freshmen in the country in touchdowns or interceptions. Isn't that right, Kodey?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, huge display at the tournament as well, and just taking over games, honestly, at times. So, Amiri Logan rightfully here, and I remember having the discussion for, the all-freshman team and taking a look at the case and just being like, yeah, no, this is definitely someone worthy, and it's really awesome to find, that playmaking and that ability at, from a defensive back who is a freshman, and she's certainly something special here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely will be a player down the line who could potentially even break maybe some MVP, Opoi, Depoy conversations moving forward. But Kodey, do you want to go ahead and talk about another candidate here?
Yeah, so another candidate here that I'll go ahead and talk about is one whose film I got to break down in the past, and someone who I've got to interview as well, and that is Kaiser's very own Brenna Ramirez here, who found ways to contribute in the regular season at the wide receiver spot, catching for over 400 yards and for a few touchdowns. But really here in this, tournament here at the end, really showed her chops as a jump ball, kind of like possession kind of receiver here, just winning against some of the best defensive backs in the country, coming down with jump balls. And in addition to that, just being able to make some big time catches and really stretch the field for this Kaiser team. And when provided with those one-on-one opportunities that arose from some of the other matchups and whatnot, was able to feast on a lot of those one-on-one matchups, even against experienced defensive backs, and showed that, she's a pro when it comes to the game of flag football, and didn't care who was lining up across from her, but was planning to feast.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, she really showed out in this tournament. I think that was really the thing for us that kind of put her over the edge and secured her a spot in the Freshman of the Year conversations. I know her fellow teammate, Sophia Caprio, was very good as well, but in that tournament, she really took over some games. Just being a great deep threat, being a player that Jasmine Roden could throw to deep outside of Kennedy Foster and Caprio, and she would go ahead and make plays. And she did that time and time again, just being a big-time player over there for Kaiser. So absolutely a Freshman of the Year candidate. And she is one of the few candidates, by the way, who missed a lot of the regular season, but more than made up for it with a really strong second half and then a really strong postseason as well. So that's kind of what makes her here as a candidate very special. So there you go there. Now, I'm going to go ahead and talk about one of two Thomas freshmen who made this Freshman of the Year Final Four here. And one of them is Alexa Wilson here. She actually also is one of the first players ever in PMC history to be a Final Four candidate for another End of the Year award as well, which we'll talk about later. But, Alexa Wilson as a freshman started right away, and things weren't easy right away, but she really got it together as time went on. There were a lot of ups and a lot of downs for sure here, but she showed her toughness. Through the 11 games I was able to count stats through in the regular season, she threw for 1,979 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 10 picks, also had 3 rushing touchdowns. And so she definitely had more than that in the regular season. And then in the postseason, obviously played well enough to go ahead and win the Sun Conference, and then played well enough in the national tournament after kind of a tough game against Ottawa to basically force the equivalent of a Game 7 and put Thomas in a position to potentially win the national championship if they beat Ottawa a second time. And, you know, she made many great plays in that last game of the season there, and just put up a very admirable effort. Unfortunately came up short, but it wasn't because of her coming up short. She played really, really well for a freshman. So there you go there. That's Alexa Wilson from Thomas, a freshman there. But Kodey, do you want to talk about the other Thomas freshman here?
Yeah, I was just going to say the other candidate that we have here is Alexa's teammate, and that is Aaliyah Wood, who, you know, is just a great athlete, honestly, on both sides of the ball. You got to talk about her when it comes to the defensive secondary, though. Did a great job making plays and is somebody who could really play the whole field, left to right, sideline to sideline, and break up passes, get picks, and, you know, when given the opportunity to make plays on offense, was also capable of doing so. Not to the same volume, I wouldn't say, as, you know, maybe some of the other Thomas playmakers on offense, but was somebody who you could rely on to catch a quick pass, pick up a few yards, get a first down if need be. And yeah, I'd say just another Sun Conference freshman who could really move the sticks and, you know, help advance this Thomas team. Simon, I don't know if you have numbers on her, but I think that her case from a film perspective is just as compelling.
Oh my God, not in front of me. I knew I had them at one point here. From a defensive back perspective, I think I do. She had at least 25 tackles and 6 picks. I know she had a little bit more. I know by the time she got to the national tournament, she had at least 10 interceptions by that point. Receiving stats, I don't have as much on, but she was definitely, you know, a big time receiver in that aspect as well for Thomas. So there you go there. And that's a pretty crowded receiving group over there too. But Aaliyah Wood is definitely very deserving of being here for sure. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the votes here. I'm going to start with our friend at NAIA F-Ball and talk about his vote here. But he will go ahead and vote for Alexa Wilson for Freshman of the Year. Here's what he has to say. He says, "It's a tall task to step in at quarterback for the national runner-ups as a true freshman. It's an even taller task to do it well. Alexa Wilson not only did it well, but her presence allowed the Nighthawk offense to come into its own this year by showcasing playmakers at every position." So there you go there. The first vote of 5 goes to Alexa Wilson. Now, I'm going to go ahead and throw my vote here, Kodey, so that you could talk about the Twitter, where the Twitter votes went, and then your own here at the end. But I'm going to go ahead and vote for Alexa Wilson's teammate, Aaliyah Wood here. Now, love both of them, obviously. They're both great freshmen. You know, I've gone to a message both, and I just respect Aaliyah Wood's game so much. He played both sides of the ball here. I think for me, this vote was really close. I think all 4 freshmen are excellent. There's a reason why all 4 made our all-freshman team for sure. And they're really bright spots in the future of women's flag football. But I really liked Aaliyah Wood's game from the beginning of the season to the very end at the national tournament, playing wide receiver, defensive back, rusher. I mean, she was used everywhere, sometimes running back too. She was used everywhere. On offense, I mean, she was a playmaker. When she got the ball in her hands, she was electric. Made some really great catches as well. On defense, I mean, it's really hard to step in and, play DB for Thomas, especially considering that spot was Sanaya Glover, who was a great corner for them this last year, but she did it, and she was really good. I mean, there were a few times she got exposed here. There were some quarterbacks who tried to pick on her throughout the season, but in my opinion, she really stood strong here and did a great job. And so, even though this was really tough, I had to go with Aaliyah Wood here as my vote for Freshman of the Year. So there you go there. Between the first two votes, it is split between the Thomas freshmen. Kodey, why don't you go ahead and tell us where the Twitter votes land here before talking about your own?
Yes, and seeing as how we have all the votes in front of us, we are going to make this dramatic here because on Twitter, the poll had 343 votes, and coming in at the second spot, earning that Twitter vote nonetheless, was Amiri Logan with 34% of the votes here. Obviously did enough to impress everyone who came across this poll. Great representation for Warner Flag, and, just really had a stellar year, and that's what you, the audience, thought. But even more so, by less than 10 votes, mind you, I did the math on this, and coming in at the number one fan poll spot here is Brenna Ramirez at 36.4% here. So, like I said, this was decided by less than 10 votes. So, both Brenna and Amiri, hats off to them and their stellar season in the eyes of the audience here. Lots of votes flying around. But, I think that Brenna's tournament has a lot to do with... Well, Brenna and Amiri's tournament honestly probably have a lot to do with these votes because of just how much they did for their squads in the tournament, I would say, and how fresh that was in their minds. Amiri taking over games, Brenna with actual mosses of defensive backs. That'll burn an image into your head as an audience member or, as a fan. So with all of that said, Simon, we have a 4-way tie here. And I'm going to announce, with my vote, I will be announcing who the Playmakers Corner Freshman of the Year is. So, all that in consideration, the Playmaker who is the Freshman of the Year is Alexa Wilson out of Thomas here. That is where I cast my final vote. I'm right there with NAIA F-Ball Corey right there. And I just want to kind of explain that I think the big thing for Alexa taking my vote here is her poise as a freshman. I think that there was a lot placed on... There's obviously a lot of pressure when you're playing for a national championship. You got to force, that third game. And I think that she rose to the occasion in a way that I don't really think a lot of freshmen can, especially with, their backs against the wall. And, having the target on the back that they already did and having to come back from an 0-1 hole to force, a game 3 against Ottawa. And then the drive, the 2-minute drill to get Thomas into the red zone, into scoring position was just incredible. It was calm. It was cool. It was collected. And I think that those are the major selling points. The numbers are all there, right? The passing numbers are there. The rushing numbers are there. And, she diced apart defenses throughout this entire tournament here and was able to shake off what was not maybe the best showing and bounce back and then deliver 3 great games following that first loss to Ottawa. And I think that just speaks volumes about what the future looks like for Thomas and how integral Alexa Wilson is to that, contending idea here for the Nighthawks. And so that is why she is going to be our Freshman of the Year.
No, yeah, absolutely love that. Alexa Wilson's a player who has a bright future ahead of her. Definitely an OPOY and an MVP candidate moving forward, I would say. Definitely a front runner for that already. But this is definitely just the beginning for her. So congrats to her for winning Freshman of the Year. Definitely one of the best, probably the best freshman quarterback to play this year. So there you go there. But Yeah, with that being said, though, Kodey, do we want to go ahead and talk about our defensive Playmaker of the Year finalist?
Yeah, so I mean, once again, we got 4 really good ones here. And I'm just going to go ahead and start with the first candidate that we have here is Abby Brown out of Ottawa University. Obviously, a part of that stellar defensive unit that, was, at the hands of forcing a lot of turnovers, suffocating teams very early in the tournament, and, snuffing things out here. And, once again, and has been a stalwart piece on this defense for years. And I think it's just such a great example of how to play the game, how to flow sideline to sideline, how to be useful both in, defending potential runs and sweeps and stuff like that, while also being very, very good in pass coverage as well, whether it's zone or if they're just playing straight across the line. You take this person, I take this person, right? So I think that, Abby Brown has done a spectacular job for Ottawa, not only, over the course of her flag football career there, but this past year was no different, racking up a ton of flagpoles, breaking over 100 flagpoles actually in the championship game that would give Ottawa their 3rd ring. And also, like I said, just being very dangerous to try and target in the pass game as well. So that's our first candidate here, Abby Brown, for Defensive Playmaker of the Year. Simon, if you'd like to take another one.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's keep talking about the linebackers here. Let's talk about Janae Scott, from Thomas. Obviously plays linebacker for them. I want to say she's a junior. I can't remember if she's a junior or a sophomore. But Janae Scott, obviously one of the best linebackers in the entire country, made our all-Playmaker list, just like Abby Brown, I want to say, as well. And, on the season, through the 11 games I was able to find stats for in the regular season, that is, she had 68 tackles, 3 sacks, 5 interceptions, and 3 pass breakups. Doing her thing there. Was a big part of this Thomas defense, as always, and in the national tournament, she had an excellent tournament where she balled out and helped Thomas get, into that last game there. It was all hands on deck, and, she really helped lead this defense into at least one more game to potentially play for a national championship. Unfortunately, coming up just a little bit short there. But still, it takes a lot to bounce back from a loss to Ottawa earlier on and then continue to win like that. And Janae Scott was a huge part of all of that for Thomas. So there you go there. Now, Kodey, do you want to talk about another DPOY finalist? These last 2 are from the same school here.
I was just about to say, we got a pair of Bobcats to round out our Defensive Playmaker of the Year spot here. And so I'm going to go ahead and talk about Tashumba Washington here, who had a great tournament per usual and is another one of those defensive backs that can just change a game. And is such a great athlete, too, that can answer the phone on offense if necessary. And, even had to kind of do that this tournament. But I digress a little bit. Look, Washington is a ball hawk. Somebody will look open. And she's just baiting you because she's so fast. She accelerates so quickly and will just undercut that pass. And she did it time and time again. There is even a few times where I'm like, oh man, that person's wide open. Because, with that on-field kind of perspective, it looks open. But no, you got to be aware when playing STU that Washington is waiting for you to think someone is open and then breaks on the ball and makes an incredible pick and then can also really return it. At least listed on the website, 11 interceptions, 14 pass breakups, and, a handful of flag pulls as well. And, I don't even think the crazy thing is that obviously this doesn't keep track of like how many targets wide receivers aren't getting because Washington is near. And so, the defensive back prowess of Washington for STU speaks for itself. And I mean, she's consistently in this conversation here, and I assume that she will be as long as she's playing ball. If she keeps this up at this level, she's going to routinely be in this conversation for DPOY as well as Defensive Back of the Year and everything like that.
And I'll go ahead and talk about her teammate here, sophomore rusher NAIA Leone, who had a breakout season this year. In the 7 games that I was able to find stats for, had 22 tackles, 7 sacks, which obviously led St. Thomas, and 8 pass breakups from her rushing spot here just during the regular season. And, she ended up being one of the best rushers in the country at the tournament. Unfortunately, Jada Reese went down, but NAIA Leone was really healthy, and I think that kind of meant the difference between putting Reese here compared to NAIA Leone. And Leone, I mean, she just played excellent and really applied the pressure to every single team that St. Thomas played. Just doing an excellent job there and showing why she's one of the best in the country. So, deservingly so, she is here as a DPOY finalist. But with that being said, those are all our finalists. Let's go ahead and talk about it here. It'll be the same order. I'll talk about NAIA Ball's pick, and then I'll talk about mine after that. But they would go ahead, or Corey would go ahead and vote for Janae Scott for Defensive Playmaker of the Year. He said, sure, there are a lot of linebackers that are quick, there are a lot that read and react accurately, and there are a lot that are sure flag pullers. To have all 3 in one package is a rarity, and that is Janae Scott. So there you go. That's 1 vote cast for Janae Scott. Now for me, I mean, this one was pretty tough as well, but I think I had to go with Tashumba Washington, the DB from St. Thomas here. I mean, she was big time box office. She played excellent throughout the entire year. There were plenty of quarterbacks who tried her deep, and she made plenty of them pay. Simple as that. I want to also say she led the entire country in interceptions if you wanted to include the national and postseason stuff as well. Once more, because I believe she did it last year, so it's 2 years in a row that she's really been turning up for St. Thomas, and so I had to go with Tashumba Washington here as one of our candidates. And also, I'm going to throw this out there. She played a lot of safety and corner, so played a lot of zone and man, and was excellent in both through this year. And I think that undoubtedly helped St. Thomas make the run that they did this year. So there you go there. Now, Kodey, do you want to go ahead and talk about the Twitter votes before you cast your vote here?
Yeah, and I just also want to comment, Tashumba's versatility is something to behold. So I love that vote there. But, the Twitter polls, this is crazy because this feels like the closest a poll has ever been. Because at least from looking at the numbers of 191 votes, both these candidates, when you initially look at it, are listed at 42% for getting the votes. But there's an extra decimal in there, and it is 1 vote that separates first and second between the fan vote, or the fan voting of first and second here for those 2 votes here. Now, the 2 recipients of those votes are going to be Janae Scott and Abby Brown here. And Abby Brown sitting at 41.4% and Janae Scott sitting at 42.4%. There's literally just 1 vote separating those 2 spots there. So we actually almost ran into the absolute headache that would be 2 candidates getting the exact same number of votes, which I don't think has ever happened. At least not to my memory, not through fall football or spring football. So, but Janae Scott narrowly gets the edge there, which would give her the tiebreaker in any case. But she doesn't need the tiebreaker anyway because my vote is also cast for Janae Scott, who, I mean, just would shut down teams in every different way possible. You're going to try and throw it to the flats. I'm going to just get that player out of bounds and I'm going to break that up. You're going to try and hit drag routes on me. Oh, I'm going to follow that player and I'm going to undercut it and I'm going to break that pass up. Never going to miss a flagpole. Literally like never. And be careful throwing it over the middle of the field because she can make diving interceptions and consistently did so to kill opposing drives and even set up the Nighthawks in phenomenal field position. So Janae Scott earns my vote. And I gotta shout out Abby here, who I did vote for Abby prior to the tournament in, I want to say it was the linebacker of the year. And she was like, hey, I appreciate you. And now I kind of feel like I'm doing her dirty a little bit here. But don't worry about it. It's all good. Nothing but love for all these players here. And,
it's all good on your end.
Well, no, now she's going to give me the same treatment that she gave Coach V. Now, next time she sees me, she'll be like, oh, hi, Cody. But, no, it's all in good fun here. And, regardless whichever way my vote went, Janae Scott was going to be your defensive playmaker of the year for this past season.
Well, there you go there. The first two award winners coming from Thomas here being teammates. So there you go there. But let's go ahead and move on here. Let's talk about Offensive Playmaker of the Year. Oh, by the way, Janae Scott, super well deserving of it. Obviously not mad at that at all. She's been excellent. I mean, I've talked about how great she has been throughout plenty of plenty of season recaps, so go ahead and check those. So there you go there. But let's move on. Talk Offensive Playmaker of the Year here. Cody, do you want to go ahead and pick a candidate and then go from there?
Don't mind if I do, and I'm just going to roll with the one that we've heard her name already so far this episode, and that is Thomas's very own Alexa Wilson. You've heard the numbers. You've heard the stats, you've heard the reasonings there, and you've heard that she is the PMC Freshman of the Year. But take that same story and just scoot it over to the Offensive Playmaker of the Year category here, where she stands alone as the lone quarterback in this specific, vote-getting spot here. And, hats off to her. She has earned both of these spots. It's like those rookies making the Pro Bowl too, within their own conference and then maybe even All-Pro. So I think that Alexa Wilson, she did great and was obviously in conversation for quarterback of the year as well. So here she is back again trying to win 2 awards in one show. Let's see if she could do it. But there's 3 other candidates that she's going to have to go through first. Isn't that right, Simon?
Yeah, no, for sure. And one of them is an in-conference opponent in St. Thomas's, Jada Graham here. First off, if there was a Comeback Player of the Year award, I think Jada Graham would have probably automatically win that. Coming off of an ACL and some MCL, just in general knee injuries from these last 2 years, she bounced back this year and was a big part of why this St. Thomas team was so dangerous here. Obviously, you have great receivers there already in Ray Baker, Tyler Bryant. Go ahead and add on a Jada Graham who came back and was their deep threat and was their number 1 option on the year through 10 games in the regular season. That is, she had 53 receptions, 655 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns, also had 131 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, and then also had 2 passing touchdowns, so 11 total touchdowns on the year here, having ran one in, throw one, and catch a touchdown. I believe she did that at one point in one game too, so there you go there. One of the only players to ever be able to do that, which is absolutely big time. And then, she had a maybe not the best conference tournament there. She was pretty well covered, and they paid a lot of attention to her then. But in the national tournament, she turned up. And this was a tournament where she got hurt. She got a knee injury, but she fought through it. And even wearing a pretty big, clunky knee brace, was able to make big-time plays for St. Thomas all the way to the end there, and was a game changer regardless. So there you go there. That's Jada Graham from St. Thomas, the junior wide receiver. Cody, do you want to go ahead and talk about one of these other junior wide receivers here?
Yeah, and I'm going to keep it inside the Sun Conference still and talk about Kaiser's very own Kennedy Foster. That is the second Kaiser receiver that we're going to talk about here, who, on the regular season had over 50 receptions for just a hair under 640 yards and 10 touchdowns. And then go ahead and add a pretty solid handful or a pretty solid scoop to all of those numbers following the postseason tournament, where, she really just was a mismatch. She has very sticky hands, good route running, like very sneaky, I would say, route runner, which is crazy because on the field, she's the tallest that there is, and the defense still loses track of her. And then if it is a one-on-one situation, she's going to be winning that a lot of the time. Definitely lives up to her reputation around other circles where coaches call her Sports Center or call her ESPN or just call her na, because she's constantly making plays and is a human highlight reel for this Seahawks offense. And, if the numbers and the highlights don't do enough for you to convince you of why she belongs here, you might just be delusional.
Yes. So there you go there. No surprises that she made this as a finalist once more. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about our last finalist here from Ottawa. That is junior wide receiver / center too, I think. Alyssa Linkus. In the regular season, 49 receptions, 621 receiving yards, 11 receiving touchdowns through 11 games. Had a big postseason. Obviously won the KCAC. That was huge, where she was big time there. And then in the national tournament, didn't she win MVP or player of the tournament or something like that?
Yeah, she was the most valuable player at the tournament.
Yeah, she was big time over there. With all the attention being paid to all the other Ottawa players, she really came through and was big time for an Ottawa team that, saw some struggles on offense here, more so than some other years. And so, all reliable, she came through and helped deliver them, a KCAC championship as well as a national championship. So there you go there. Alyssa Linkus making a really solid push for this here. But let's go ahead and talk about the votes here. How should we do this? Kodey, how about I talk about the Twitter votes and then you could talk about what Corey said? How about we do that?
Okay, I was going to open up with mine and then let the Twitter votes be the spoiler deciding factor, but...
Nah, it's not.
Nah.
We could, let's just go ahead and talk about the Twitter votes here. So, the top two vote getters. Well, we should talk about, I guess, the top vote getter. That was Alyssa Linkus with 35.3% here. And then the second place votes were really close between Kennedy Foster and Alexa Wilson, a mere 3% difference here. I didn't do the math to figure out how many votes that is, but that cannot be more than maybe 5. Maybe it definitely can't be more than 10 votes. But a pretty small margin here, but Kennedy Foster just barely edges out Alexa Wilson with 29%, while Wilson had 26% there. So there you go there. Votes going to Alyssa Linkus and Kennedy Foster there. And then, sorry, I guess I should I cast my vote or should I wait on that here before
you might
talk about yours and Corey's?
You might as well.
Yeah, all right, okay, bet. And then I'll go ahead and cast my vote for Jada Graham here, so that way Alyssa Linkus, Jada Graham, and Kennedy Foster each have a vote at this point. But, Jada Graham, she's been excellent. Definitely had kind of a tougher conference tournament, but definitely made up for that in the national tournament with a very valiant effort, making plays still, even with a bummed knee, but was turning up, and was making real tough catches, being physical, adapting to, the style of play that was presented to her, the only style that she could have at that moment, and that ended up being huge for St. Thomas. So absolutely love that. And, throughout the regular season as well, she was electrifying. And so I had to go ahead and go and vote for Jada Graham here for Offensive Playmaker of the Year. But Kodey, why don't you go ahead and talk about the NAIA F-ball vote and then yours?
Yeah, so Corey here, some of you have heard this one before, but he's going to vote for Jada Graham here for a lot of the reasons that we described in, kind of her player profile for this award, And I quote, Graham was everywhere STU needed her this year. Quarterback, wide receiver, running back. Graham kept the season alive with play after play, even while hurt in the finals, end quote. That was Corey's exact words here as he voted for Jada Graham. And I mean, like you said, Simon, she's just a warrior, dude. And I think that, that's especially inspiring and is a great story. And like you said, comeback player of the year, it would have been sweeps the nation. That would have been unanimous 5-0. And, if the votes didn't go that way, we'd be like, nah. So I think that Jada Graham here, obviously, awesome story, and takes the lead with 2-1 following the Twitter votes. And following my vote, we're going to have to crown an offensive playmaker of the year thanks to our tie-breaking system that goes to the Twitter polls here. And that's going to be Alyssa Linkus here is where my vote is going to be cast. And with the 35% to 9% vote, that gives her the tiebreaker thanks to you, the audience. So the audience who voted her at the top of the leaderboard here is actually going to be the final result for PMC's Offensive Playmaker of the Year for 23. And really, that just comes on the heels of a fantastic tournament. When the stage was the biggest and the light was the brightest, not only was she making catch after catch, they were clutch. They were tough. They were contested catches. She was making, diving catches near the sideline, making sure to drag those toes in to keep them in bounds. Whether it was the championship game, whether it was the first round of the championship game, she was, moving the sticks. She was being very cognizant of the field and just continued to make play after play against the best of the best, and was very obviously the security blanket for this Ottawa offense en route to their three-peat here. I don't think that there's any contending her spot on this team and her importance. And then, right after that, having to gear up for some U.S. flag football as well. And with the other, high Twitter vote getter here. But Alyssa Linkus is going to be the Offensive Playmaker of the Year. And maybe I won't steal the thunder on this last one. Maybe we'll have Corey's vote be the tiebreaker here as we head into our last category. But Simon, do you have any notes here on, these OPOI candidates here and, Alyssa Linkus's victory for this award?
That's a slight spoiler, but yeah, Corey's vote could be the tiebreaker. But no, she's very deserving of this. I think, honestly, she made a really, good push for it. Made a really good case for this when she turns up at the national tournament, as well as the postseason as well. She was big time, and I don't know. Maybe this isn't right, but I feel like she scored the majority of the touchdowns for Ottawa in those games versus Thomas. I could be wrong, but she was definitely
that's right.
very, very instrumental in that. All right, well, there you go. And so I think, obviously the fans, they voted on this as well, and there's a reason why she was the top vote getter. They obviously understand that she's been big time and she's been clutch for them and was extremely important to their third national championship. So there you go there. But that wraps that up. Let's go ahead and talk about our most valuable playmaker candidate here, or candidates here. Kodey, do you mind if I go ahead and kick this off and talk about one of the finalists, one of the four?
Please do.
So we're going to go ahead and continue to talk about Ottawa players here by talking about Ottawa quarterback and current reigning MVP Madison Carrera the Jr. here. Obviously won her third title, both in the KCAC and national championship this last season. During the regular season, had a great regular season through 12 games, throwing for 2,674 passing yards, 50 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions. Also tagged on 604 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns. Once more, as Ottawa would go ahead and go back to back to back, both in the conference and on the national stage. So there you go there. Obviously, another MVP candidate. But Kodey, do you want to go ahead and talk about another finalist?
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about one of our, two-way absolute monsters here. We have two of them, both from the Sun Conference. But the first one I got to talk about is Cynthia Holmes here from Warner, who, Warner without Cynthia Holmes just doesn't work. Without Cynthia Holmes doesn't work here. Holmes, she is a threat on both sides of the ball. She's a ball hawk on the defensive side and also just a fantastic flag puller as well. Very, very disciplined, takes great angles no matter where she is on the field, and, snuffs out big plays if and when given the chance. And then on offense is the source of big plays. And, once, they get so far on the depth chart at the quarterback position, it basically just becomes, all right, who's the person that can get the ball to Cynthia here so that she can make plays? And she continued to do so with kind of like a rotating cast of QBs due to injury. But especially with her QB1, anytime that Tingen was healthy, Cynthia was an absolute monster at receiving and could run any route in the route tree and score a touchdown off of it as well. So just due to dominance on both sides of the ball and the numbers to back it up with tons of flag pulls, one of the leaders in that, in interconference, I even believe the nation. And then in addition to that, being a 1,000-yard receiver as well on the season, that'll get you into the MVP discussion here.
So there you go there, Cynthia Holmes. Once again, being an MVP candidate. I'm pretty sure she was last year. I could be wrong, though. But
yes, she was, for basically the same reasons. Dominance on both sides.
No, for sure. But let me go ahead and talk about a candidate who was not an MVP finalist last year. That's Kansas Wesleyan quarterback Brianna Hernandez Silva. Through 12 games in the regular season, threw for 2,235 passing yards, 40 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Also had 719 rushing yards and 12 rushing touchdowns through 12 games here. Obviously, came up a little bit short both of the KCAC tournament and the national tournament. But, in the KCAC tournament, she played well. Kansas Wesleyan pushed Ottawa for a little bit there. And then in the national tournament, they got probably farther than... well, I guess the format was different. But, they beat a Sun Conference team and they competed well. And, they really showed that, or she really helped show that Kansas Wesleyan is a next level program, a top tier program for sure here, and has to get that respect. So there you go there. Plus plenty of signature moments here from, those last plays beating Warner, Midland. She has a lot of signature moments that really went a long way for her. So there you go there. That's Brianna Hernandez Silva. Now, Kodey, do you want to go ahead and talk about our last finalist for MVP?
Sure thing. And then following that, I think I'm just going to jump into my vote here in the Twitter votes, if that's all right with you, Coach V.
Yeah, go for it.
Perfect. So, the last one here, sticking with the theme of wide receivers who, shine on the offensive side of the ball, but also are beasts on the defensive side of the ball. We got Kayla Burrows out of Weber International here, who is somebody who I believe over the course of the tournament eclipsed 100 flag pulls on the season and was somebody who also eclipsed 1,000 receiving yards on offense. I feel like that's like the gold standard for somebody who's really a force on both sides of the ball, somebody who can be argued to be the most important player on both sides of the ball, if not first or second best player. And so if you could do that for your team, and for Weber, who had such a successful season where she makes big plays, she, turns upfield, makes people miss on the offensive side of the ball, and then turns right back around and doesn't allow people to make her miss when pulling their flags, and also collecting interceptions, getting into the end zone. whether it's on offense or defense. I mean, she's just a threat to score and ruin your day if you're an opposing coach, and you can't help but respect Kayla Burrows here, who's just another Sun Conference athlete in this MVP discussion here. But, jumping into the votes here, I'm going to go ahead and kick off with my vote. Personally, I'm going to vote for Madison Carrera. Just continues to put up absolutely insane monster numbers here. And even Carrera at her most rattled or disturbed or what have you during the tournament, where, there were times where she looked her most, I guess, like I said, rattled. She's still one of the best quarterbacks on the planet here in flag football, even at her worst. And so I think that along with just like her composure once again here at the QB position is going to earn my vote here. And then I'm going to go ahead and just transition right into the Twitter votes here. And she did come in second place on the Twitter votes. She collected 35.6% of all the votes on this Twitter poll, which did gain 216 votes here. So she would take the second place spot here for the Twitter poll votes. But at first place is going to be, and I actually am going to correct this because it's either her Twitter or Instagram, but I stand corrected. I was trying to push the Queen Bee narrative, but she has Princess Bee. So there's your nod to Beyonce and putting some respect on Beyonce's name. But Princess Bee here, Brianna Hernandez Silva, with 45.8% of the vote. Twitter went ahead and rounded up at 46 and is the people's champion here for most valuable playmaker here. Coach V, I'll pass it to you so that you may handle yourself and Corey's vote here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll say my vote. But I'm going to go ahead and vote for Brianna Hernandez Silva. I think that is going to be really surprising to some people, and that's fine. It's my vote. And it's also my show, our show. So there you go there. But, I just felt like she had so many signature moments from that last touchdown she threw against Midland, from that big 60-yarder where she found Angel Roman against Warner. I mean, look, you don't got to win the national championship every year to be the MVP. I want to make sure that is clear. As far as me as a voter, I'm going to vote for the player that I felt like, was real clutch and clutched up and came up big in big time situations. That's just what I'm going to do there. You look at other Heisman winners, not every Heisman winner won a national championship. Caleb Williams definitely did it. So there you go there. But I had to vote for Brianna Hernandez Silva. I just really liked how well she played this year, and she really came through for Kansas Wesleyan when they needed her to. So there you go there. So at this moment, the vote for MVP is tied here. One or each of these quarterbacks has a Twitter vote, and then each of them has one of the co-hosts on the Playmakers Corner voting for them as well. So it's going to come down to Corey over at NAIA Ball to go ahead and decide who is your 2023 NAIA Women's Flag Football MVP, and that will be Ottawa's Madison Carrera here, who he voted for. And this is what he said: when it mattered most, Carrera showed out, making the plays necessary to secure a third ring there. And along with her third ring is her second in a row most valuable playmaker award, once again to Madison Carrera of Ottawa. So there you go there. Cody, what do you think about that as far as dramatics go?
Well, I think it's, just great to, obviously very thankful for all of the fan votes and all these players as well. Congratulations to all these athletes that put on shows to earn these spots at all these awards and, for the fans voting on it. And, I mean, as far as Corey's vote goes, it matches mine, so I obviously agree here. And, it's crazy just to see the double fan vote and how enticing that really made this race here between, two KCAC quarterbacks. It's funny that we have in this MVP discussion 2 Sun Conference athletes and then 2 KCAC QBs. And, I think that it was really exciting. I want to just agree here and echo that, Hernandez Silva had many signature moments here. And, you talk to any coach that had to go against her in the tournament, they're like, yeah, you gotta get her flags and you gotta bottle her up. Otherwise she'll make you pay. So obviously a ton of respect there. And, the KCAC coaches had nothing but good the KWU coaches had nothing but good things to say about all of these athletes across these lists that they had to compete against. But, Madison Carrera here, you don't need to win a championship every year to be the MVP, but it certainly doesn't hurt to be just such an instrumental, composer here on this Ottawa team, and to make the big plays that she did and to make the right decisions that she did. And even being at her worst at times was still more than enough for this Ottawa squad to walk away with their 3rd ring and officially become a dynasty.
Yeah, so there you go there. Once again, just in case you missed it, our 2023 Freshman of the Year is Alexa Wilson from Thomas, quarterback. Our 2023 Defensive Playmaker of the Year is linebacker Janae Scott from Thomas. Our 23 Offensive Playmaker of the Year is Ottawa's receiver Alyssa Linkus. And then our 23 MVP is Ottawa's quarterback Madison Carrera. So really, this is interesting. So only 2 schools were represented here at the end when it came to award winners, but it was the 2 best. So that obviously makes a lot of sense there here. But that'll basically wrap this thing up here. I am going to say this, Kodey and we are going to be releasing our final power rankings. Won't talk about it on this episode here. We're just going to decide offline here real quick, and then it'll be posted on our social media at Playmakers Corner, which is at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find us there and, find our final power rankings. There really shouldn't be any big surprises. We're going to go based off of, what happened in the tournament for the most part there. So there you go. But like I said, show us some love on social media. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, go ahead and give us a good rating, comment, all that great stuff. We really appreciate it. And you know what? It will be a while before we talk about women's flag football again, but it's really been an excellent season. Had so much fun covering it. And so I'm Simon Villanoz, aka Coach V, one of your co-hosts, signing off until next year when we do previews. And Kodey, I'm going to go ahead and throw it to you if you have anything more to say before you sign off here.
I just want to reiterate to go ahead and check us out on TikTok, where, we still have highlights coming out from the tournament. And please go ahead and listen to episodes 261 and 262. That is the tournament recap and the tournament reactions, respectively. And, there is a lot to talk about. Obviously, they're longer episodes, but, play a little bit on your drive into work. Play a little bit on your drive home from work. Go ahead and listen to a little bit here and there and get that full experience that, we worked so hard to try and emulate here. And even more so, go ahead and give it a listen to put some respect on all the athletes' names, all the participants' names, and everyone who helped put it together. But until next women's flag football season, I've been one of your co-hosts, Kodey Stauffer, and I'm mentally and emotionally preparing for tackle football in Colorado. And I would rather it just be another women's flag season.
Yeah. Well, we'll still be covering women's flag football, but it'll actually be in Colorado this season. So I guess we don't have to wait too long. It just won't be college women's flag football.
True.
Peace.